Angela, will you do roll call, please?
Yes, Jamie.
Yes, ma'am.
Art.
Yeah.
Art. Yeah. Absent, I have Deb and Dave.
Yes, thank you. I hope everyone has reviewed their consent agenda. Are there any questions or discussion? If
No.
not, I would entertain a motion to accept.
Make a motion to accept.
Thank you.
Accept.
Second,
Second.
thank you, Art. All in favor, say yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next is our director for her reports.
Okay, on our radio, I did send you guys out the packets of the specifications and the RFP to start putting out for bids for new radio consoles. Did you guys have any questions? I know it's probably a lot of it's Greek because it's
There was a lot of
radio
paperwork.
language, and basically it's everything that we have now, with the exception of we want to be able to have multiple access to change to multiple talk groups on most one radios from the console without having to have a separate radio with a separate icon for each one. So basically it'll have most one, and then it'll open up with a click down and you can pick what talk group, and then it'll change the channel on the radio. So we won't have to purchase any more radios or anything, but able to talk to more talk groups. Makes sense. We also wanted the ability to patch frequencies. So right now we do a thing called multi-select. So we would select, all the time we select fire and EMS because we tone them to multiple calls together. But if we patch them, they can talk back and everybody on those channels can hear. So that was something else that we wanted to do. We also wanted to be able to have the opportunity to do a CAD interface with the radio. And so if the call comes in and we put in nature and the address validates, once the dispatcher hits dispatch, it tells them what agencies to send. And if we dispatch them by truck, what trucks it would be. So with having an interface to the radio, if it's going to be an ambulance and a fire unit that have radio tones to open up pagers or set off station alerting, it would automatically know that and would send the alert, the tones, without the dispatcher having to turn to the radio and physically hitting the tone. And that's one of the other things they're talking about with AI is, it could even read from the CAD card and say, seizures 123 Apple Street and whatever, without the dispatcher having to do anything. It would read it directly from the screen. So there's a lot of things coming out with AI, but we want to make sure, even though we may not be using it now, that it's available. But we'll set this out to bid. I did have a lady, right now we have Telex. She is a Telex dealer. They were at the conference that I just got back from. And one of the things that we had, I had said, because all the vendors were in there, and I said that we were getting ready to bid radio consoles. And so she asked me, she kind of ran me down and said, hey, gave me her business card and asked me if I would send her the spec. And I said, well, once I send to the paper and put it out to bid, then I'll forward her everything, which is nice to be able to send it all electronically. And then it'll have the end dates. So I'll go through and fill in these dates.
Okay.
I left them blank for September, but as soon as I have it already, I'll send it to the newspaper to put out.
Okay.
And then I'll start sending it to the ones that have asked for it. I will have it hopefully all back and ready for the next board meeting in October so we can review it, because we did I got a tentative cost from A&W, which is a Zetron dealer, and that's the Zetron Max is what I really, really like. And so I asked them just to give me a tentative so I'd have budget figures. So we did have things in the budget for that this year. So I'll have that to you guys next month, and then hopefully we can start moving forward with that. Our GIS grant, we're still moving forward. We're actually a little ahead of schedule right now. It's all in Geocom's hands right now. They're redoing, checking boundary lines, making sure everything's measuring right. We did have a conference call to show us the flow chart, which we already knew it, but they have to as part of the grant because it is state funded. That once we're done, every time, at least once a month it is, we have to push our updates that we do to the state. That was part of the GIS grant, and that's just so that the map data stays accurate with the state. Our ESInet, our equipment's all here. It's installed. We're supposed to be going live the 15th, but they're waiting on CenturyLink, which I don't understand what's taking CenturyLink so long, because before we switched to Show Me Fiber, we had Lightspeed, Lumen, whatever you want to call them. We already had their fiber before we moved over. So the equipment, it's already ran from, it's out the corner of the building in, but that's going to be our secondary. So, and digital's real big about backup to the backup to the backup. So they won't switch us over live until Brightspeed has their stuff in line. So our primary will be Show Me. Our secondary will be Brightspeed. I also seen at the conference, I asked Jonathan to give me a price figure in case I wanted, if I could slide it in the budget next year. So right now, the way that in digital will work, it's an ESInet. Everything comes in digital and it comes in through fiber. And then if our original fiber's down, then it goes to the secondary, which would be Brightspeed. Then if it's down, it goes to a cellular connection. Then we also have, if our call taking system is down, which is our Detron call taking, if something happened that the software would go down, we have these phones that are called Mevo phones. So it would revert to the Mevo phone, and on the screen, it's got a screen about this big on each phone, the Annie and Allie, which is the phone number and the location to the caller that we get that's routed into us, comes over that device. So they would have to manually type that information into our CAD because, you know, right now it pushes it over from our call taking to our CAD system, but they would have the information there. If something happened that we needed to relocate and we didn't have, so right now we can remotely take our call taking system with us. But if something happened, it was down and we still need to leave the building, we could unplug those Mevo phones and take them and plug them in somewhere else, as long as that we can remote to our server. Now, they also save all that to the cloud, and that's what I asked Jonathan for a quote for. They have a Mevo Anywhere is what it's called. And it's basically like in a Pelican case. So if something happens, the building was flat and we couldn't get to our server, because, you know, right now our evacuation plan is they contact me, immediately evacuate. I send them to Rolla because all of our stuff rolls to Rolla. They would go there to help incoming calls. I would reach out to every department head, tell them they need to have somebody standing by at their stations. So the next thing, I'm working with Stacy, which is the director at Phelps, is to make a generic, and then at the meeting that we had a couple weeks ago with all the department heads, I talked to them about coming up with, seeing if we could get like a Pulaski. Right now there is a Pulaski all that is used from the highway patrol, and we could use that because it would be a disaster at that time. It would be why we would be leaving. Then Rolla will just key up on the radio and say Pulaski Fire or Pulaski EMS, and then it would be up to them to know their jurisdictions and self-dispatch. I came up with the form so they could write their times on it. So then when we got everything back up and running, we would recreate a call for our CAD, and we would reference the CAD in Phelps County's call number, and then we would put all the times in. So we would still have a record, but for purpose of if we got a subpoena, to know to go to Phelps to get the audio recording. So this Mevo phone would be able to do the same thing, but we would be able to do it ourselves instead of going into another PSAP. So we would have our own, we could set it up in somebody's basement if we wanted to, wherever else, as long as we had internet connection, we would be able to operate because everything stores on the cloud or on the cloud. I also been talking at the conference. I talked to Motorola. They do the same thing. It's a subscription that you have to pay for every year. Of course, we know Motorola's not cheap on anything.
Right.
And it's the same thing that it's on the cloud. And if you have to go out to the cloud, you can operate from it. So currently we save everything on a cloud that we have space on, but you would have to get another server and take the information from the cloud and reset your server up to operate. This would allow us to operate immediately from the cloud. We're going to find eventually the backroom equipment, like what we have in the basement, the server and all that's going to be no more. It's all going to be cloud based. I don't like that because I'm a control person. I like it to be right here where we're in control, but eventually we're just not going to have any choice. So our go live is supposed to be Monday, but I think a lot is going to be depending if Brightspeed's got their stuff together, because they won't do a cutover. And of course, it'll be in stages. We'll do a phase 1 stage, and we are going to have a couple of carriers that are always going to drag their feet. And then by phase 2, and then we'll be done. So I was talking to a couple of counties up there that have been struggling with Brightspeed, but at least they're getting it done. Some of them are having to go to court with AT&T because they're having problems with AT&T and not still charging them. So I guess it could be worse. Just to give you a little bit on the update, I sat in on a lot of good classes. Frank did some, which a lot of it, he's good about already keeping me in the loop of changes and things that are coming up, legislation. So there wasn't really anything new in there for me. A lot of it, from a director's standpoint, is networking, talking to other directors, other centers about what are you doing, and getting ideas back and forth. And that's what a lot of our tabletops and everything was just communicating, because one of them was Greene County, and them had a phone number I didn't have access to. That's somebody that was able to pull some chains with Brightspeed when they were doing their ESInet cutover. So I got that phone number in case we have to make phone calls. Also, there is a new CAD system out there that was phenomenal. They're new to Missouri. They were at the spring conference. They're already getting ready to go live in Stone County and Adair County. And looking at it, I mean, there wasn't one thing. I tried to find something they couldn't do. And they said that it started through his dad doing some stuff for law enforcement and writing codes, and they just kept writing. Well, then they employed a dispatcher that knew the things that was needed. And they said they have just taken things from different CAD systems that people liked but left, but said, we liked this feature, and they've just made one big. And so what's nice is you can turn things on and off. So like if this is something so I'm like, man, that looked like stuff that we used to use in Global. And they're like, because it was. Yeah. And so they just, and he's like, and if it's something that you want, because after you got to talking to the guy, I'm like, he's like, yes, I'm one of the owners. And he was there at the conference, and he actually does all the programming part. And for example, I know this isn't going to mean a lot to y'all, but I thought it was awesome. So right now we might have a structure fire where we have 3 fire departments going, an ambulance, law enforcement, then we have another med call going, and we have somebody else calling in. So they might call in, 1751 doing this, 1891 is doing this, Medic 23 is doing this and that. So you have to kind of remember as you answer them so you can log it. And so you type in the command line, you do one unit, and then you have to finish it, and then you go to the next one and hope you can remember them all. Well, on theirs, you can type them all on the same command line. You just put a hash slash thing in between them, and it will do every one of them in the order that you type it. So you don't have to just do them one at a time. Because the guy goes, wait till she shows you this. It's going to blow your mind. And she did. I was like, and me and Ryan were both like, wow. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. So I said, but I tell you, I said, I will never be the first to do anything new again. I said, that was awful. And I said, so whenever Stone and Adair County get up and running, I like to go down and visit with them and see it and all.
Sometimes what happens on all inclusive systems like that, and I'm not even talking just in that, just anything that you do, the more they try to add in, and when you go to turning things off, they don't realize that it disables something down the road
Yeah.
that you need.
Well, and I probably said turning off, that's probably the wrong word. You can minimize it and keep it off your screen. So you can have different
So you're not shutting
windows
it down,
open.
you're
Right.
you're just limiting your access.
Yes.
Because anytime
And I
you
guess-
go in and start shutting things down, it has other
Yeah,
consequences
I guess
that you don't know.
permissions is a better word
Right.
for it. You give them permission to use different parts of it. Like right now, to have CAD, so like if we want to give Clayton across the street access to do burn permits from the dispatch standpoint, we can't lock it down to just certain for him doing just that. You can't.
He gets it all.
Yeah. So it's hard to, give permissions to certain, well, it just won't do it. And we've asked and asked. And he said that is another difference is Motorola is a big company. They get lots of requests on different things. He said when we get it done, it's usually within a week. We can make it happen. So it was pretty sweet. But I want to see it live somewhere and want to give it just a bit. Just make sure everything goes smoothly.
I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. And this GovWorks, that it was a big thing. They have lots of different aspects on different retention, the QA, QI, different. It was something I would like to also look into because it does every call instead of just the randoms that you pull. So we had our administrator meeting. Gathering, I should say, was it the 21st? I can't remember what day it was. And I think I told you guys last time. And it went really good. We had a fairly good turnout. I like to see next time. I gave out little questionnaires to everybody. Everybody would like to continue doing them. We're going to try to do them every 6 months because even though a quarter sounds like it's a long time,
It's not.
it's not.
Mhm.
And everybody's schedules are already overflowing anyway. But we got a lot of good feedback. We got some things that we're going to start working on. We're going to try to come up with, the fire departments are already doing it, I learned. So we're going to try to maybe mock it off of their setup to where we have a list of frequencies and how they're all programmed on what channels and give it to everybody. So everybody's programmed exactly the same. That way, because I told them, I said, when you guys get out on the scene, if there's a channel you can't get out on or a channel that you want everybody to be able to hear on, then make sure in that list everybody's got the 911 repeater because nobody uses it all the time, and everybody could go there and hear and everybody could talk. So I'm going to try to come up with that list and send it out prior to, as well as the radio patching. That was an idea when I think it was Crocker Fire had. So right now we multi-select. So if we're sending out fire and EMS at the same time, so they're getting all the same language, then we can multi-select and give it out one time. So then we unselect it and answer them individually. Well, we can write a policy that we multi-select those and patch them. So for however long, depending on what kind of nature it is, we leave it open, we talk to them, they can talk back, but they're not just talking to us, they're talking to everybody else that's patched on there.
That's a good idea.
So then they can all talk to each other. So, like if they have a place that they're going to stage and they want everybody to know where to go, or they're getting an update, it can all be done at one time instead of having to repeat it.
It's consistent.
Yes, everybody's getting the same information.
Good.
So they had some really, really good ideas. So we're trying to get all that done. I did not set another date. We set it tentatively and sometime in February. So I'm going to come up with that and get it all to them ahead of time. They were all really excited about doing some additional training. I had on the questionnaire if any of them would like to have more training on CAD to understand the mobile side a little bit better. And they all said, well, there was a couple that didn't because like Clayton works here part-time and he's also at the fire and he's also affiliates with Tri-County on Tri-County. So he gives them a lot of training
Mhm.
during the day there, so they don't need us to come do it. So
Good.
we're going to set up times to go meet with their staff when they do their training days, because a lot of them are volunteers. So we'll go on their volunteer training days and then be able to set it up and answer questions and give them more one-on-one. So it was a very good positive thing. We're going to work. I'd like to, we all discuss doing tabletop exercises together at least once a year, and to where we feel that an exercise isn't effective if you tell everybody you're going to do the exercise, because then everybody plans for it. The reason to do an exercise is to see where your failures are. That way we can perfect it so it doesn't happen, and if it becomes a real world scenario. So, in my mind, that's how I would like to do a exercise, is that all the administrators know, so we can log on, we can be bystanders to know. And we'll do it on a practice side, so it doesn't affect real world, right? But that's what I would like to see happen. It'll take a lot of planning, but we can make it happen. Charlie Joe is, I don't know if he's now the full-time or if he's still interim emergency management director, and he happened to be on PTO when all this was set up, so he didn't get to come to that one. But he would be a good asset to be able to plan that as being the EMD and putting it all together. We can do one and include Fort Wood. We,
Mhm.
don't have to at some, there's just all kinds of different options. There's no other updates on our mile markers. We're just still plugging around. I did do a TV. They just showed up here randomly one day. And asked to briefly just ask some questions. I think it was like K or something 13 out of Columbia, Jeff City area. So he was here forever, and it was like 10 whole seconds that was on the TV thing. And I was like, I love everything he said. There was so much more he could have put out there. And but they did come and ask. And also Rick Canance with the radio station. I did, I don't know if he's played it yet or not, but I did an interview with him as well. He had seen the TV one and then had reached out and asked if I would do the other.
Oh, that's good.
So I will start working on a draft. I'm hoping to have a draft prepared for you guys by sometime October for our 2026 budget. And we did get a call for the first time this has ever happened, and I don't even know anybody around us that this happened. So we got a text to 911 call that came over our actual textie that we got with the grant, and it came from a crash notification. So we get those phone calls all the time. Sometimes they're not real, because sometimes people leave their cell phones on top of their cars or on their tailgates. That happened in deer season, happened in Richland, and it took us forever to find them. They were out in the middle of the woods. So it started where we got the call, went way out into Camden County, but they didn't even realize that it happened with their phone. So sometimes we get there to where it's at and there's nothing to be found. But this time it came from over a text, and the text said that the person did not have cell service. It came in through Starlink. So there's a crash notification that came in by text message from no service. It came over through a satellite. So we immediately got a call put in, and it ended up being a real call. So I was real proud of our staff. That is not something that we have ever gotten before. And they immediately recognized it, got the information inputted. It comes in with lat and long, gets all that diverted to get a point of where it's at. And the response was right on. So I did make it a big deal at our last staff meeting and gave them some kudo bucks and told them that, this is not something you could train on, because we don't know how it's going to come in.
Sure.
So I was really proud of them for that. Our calls for service for the month of August was 2,516. August last year was 2,633. So not a huge difference. And again, I put all these on our Facebook. I think you had said something on one time, commented on Facebook about explaining a little bit more in detail the different things of VoIP and telemarketers, rapid SOS, and prepared, because to the general public, sometimes we forget that not everybody knows what the terminology means. So it was a pretty lengthy remark that I put on it, or comment, but I tried to explain about what the different things that is broke out by device and what it means. So hopefully if anybody had any questions about that maybe explained it to them a little bit better. Other than that, that's all I had. I know it was going to be a quick meeting. This is the time of year we just don't have a lot going on. But October the 9th would be our next meeting. I think Deborah had already said she's got a work commitment that's already planned out for that day. So, but I told her anything on the radio stuff that we get in, that I'll make sure it's sent out in your packets. So that way if she has any questions, she can send them to be asked.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything?
No.
Okay. With nothing coming before the board, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. I guess we'll see you next month.
All right.
Aye.